Good evening, Waxhaw. We're just waiting a few minutes here to let a few viewers join us. Appreciate everybody joining us this evening.
And whoever's on right now, they can put their questions in the chat, right?
Right.
Yep. For anybody that didn't get that, for anybody that is a viewer currently, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We'd be happy to take your questions later this evening and get to those and get you some answers. Thank you for everybody for joining us. Just waiting for a few minutes for a few folks to join us here. We got a few viewers, and we know there's a few more on the way.
Well, we can do some introductions, although I guess the people who come in late won't hear our introductions. But I'm John Gemignani. I've been a resident of Waxhaw for 14 years. I've been on the planning board for the past 4 years. My term just ended, and running as a candidate for town commissioner with Daniel, Mike, and myself, and we're looking to be the majority, get the residents a majority voice on the Waxhaw Board of Commissioners.
Well said. I'm Mike Iulio. I'm running for town commissioner. Moved to Waxhaw in 2017. Lived in 8 states, so I'm a pretty good barometer of what a great community is. We love Waxhaw. My children love it here, and we decided to make it home. And based on some of the things that I've gotten to see over the last 7-8 years, instead of standing on the sidelines, I wanted to join an exceptional team and be a part of the fix. So that's why I'm running for town commissioner of Waxhaw.
Awesome. My name is Dan Farris. I've been so blessed to be able to call Waxhaw home since 2018, 2019. We've been visiting Waxhaw even before then, my family and I. It used to be something that we'd drive out to, and I was like, wow, so many farms out here. It's like driving out to my great-grandmother's place where she had her own small acre and small farm. So many memories were stirred when I visited Waxhaw, and one of the things that why we chose Waxhaw was families. Families were central part of key to Waxhaw. We had great neighborhoods, a great police department serving Waxhaw, and we have great schools for our kids to go to. And it was one of those things where when we moved, I wanted to buy in and I wanted to get to know my town a little bit better. And so I joined the planning board, and I've been on the planning board for 5 years and chair for 3. And just trying to do my best as a citizen volunteer to just offer my advice and opinion to the Board of Commissioners to the best of my ability and help. And that's the way I know I look at it. And I think the other gentleman here next to me to my right also would agree. That's what we're doing, is just volunteering, neighbors looking to volunteer and help give back into the town that we call home.
We do have our first question.
We got our first question in here. Go ahead, John.
From Teresa Shields. 3 outgoing commissioners ignored us for 5 years, and we had no way to remove them. What can the Waxhaw Wall do to make sure this never happens again?
Thank you, John. Yeah, for anybody that didn't catch that, great question, Teresa. There's a question essentially where there was 3 commissioners that no longer felt that they needed to listen to the folks, and I mean, I know for me, I was pretty upset, even for someone as a volunteer. Mike?
You know, being there and watching folks in Waxhaw coming down and so passionate about being involved. And so many times people aren't involved. That one thing you will find in Waxhaw, people, the community, they're involved. They want to know what's going on, and they're going to come down and voice their opinion. So we work for the residents. We're running for the privilege to run and be your voice. This is your town. So when a lot of people ask me, what is my vision of what Waxhaw is going to look like in the future? My answer is very straight. What is your vision? This is your town. You guys are vested. You have skin in the game. So we want to be able to take your ideas and your opinions and formulate them and be transparent about what we can do and what we can't do. And if everybody's on board and if everybody's involved with the process, there's no surprises. And that would be my answer to that.
Well, to directly answer Teresa's question, I think there was a lot of people in and around town hall when we got together, or were in town hall for the Board of Commissioners meeting during the Olivia votes, the lead up to the vote for Olivia. A lot of people were like, they were very upset. How do we keep this from happening? Just like Teresa stated in her question, is there a recall? Can we recall them? What can we do so this doesn't happen again? So, Teresa, your question captures a lot of people's, I guess, frustration at that time. And I think the best thing that I would recommend is there is a way. There's like 25 plus municipalities in North Carolina that does have a mechanism to recall their local elected officials. And so I think the process for that would be to, you have to change the town charter, make amendments to it, and then you'd have to have a local bill that's championed by some of that would probably be, our local representatives in the state assembly that would write a bill expressly for Waxhaw to have that language where we would be able to recall the elected officials of Waxhaw. And that would be something that I would stand behind.
And we all support that. We've actually had that conversation. We're all used to being in corporate America. You work, and if there's no performance, you won't have a position. And that would be the same being a board member.
100%. I agree with these gentlemen. The ability to recall an elected official is essentially a very easy thing in my mind. It is something that I'm surprised actually is already in our town charter. Where I've come from, I've seen recalls take place, and it is a reasonable process. The folks have the ability to go through a petition and go through a recall process if they feel their voices aren't being adequately represented. I know I would have participated in a recall process if that had been an ability of mine here recently in the past few years, with the last 3 sittings still on the board. Myself, I'll just speak for myself, 100%. I have no problem with recalls. I felt like I already went through a recall once, even though the gentleman was brand new to our planning board. He felt through advice that he may have been given, or maybe it was his own volition, that he felt that I should no longer be able to be chair. And so I could have fought it, and I felt I reasonably, maybe I should have been able to fight it, because I felt like that was an attack from outside forces, maybe even a force sitting currently on the Board of Commission. But for me, I was like, you know what, I would gladly sit there and be recalled and humble myself for another vote with my peers and go ahead and vote on it. And so I just sat there and I let my peers voice their opinion and vote, and I was voted to reaffirm to be chair for another year by my fellow planning members, with except for one member. And that member was brand new, and well, let's just put it this way: the 3 holdovers definitely pulled all the tricks in the book to make sure he got his position.
Another question from the online folks: how does your professional experience translate to overseeing government? I get that one to Mike.
Thank you. Being at a Fortune 50 company for 38 years and being direct leadership and senior leadership for over 20 years, the business acumen, it lends to this. And when you're talking about budgets, when you're talking about managing employees, not that the residents are employees, but we have to remember, I work for my employees. I would be working for the citizens of Waxhaw. It's our job to work for you. When you're doing budgets, you have line by line budgeting, which means you break it down. You do your due diligence when you go through a budget. No rock is left unturned. It's line by line. When I mean that, it could be painful. Multi-million-dollar budgets, you have to go through everything. Some people say, well, what would you cut? And that might be a question later. It's not a matter of cutting. It's just about being more creative in how we pay for things and getting outside folks to come in and be a part of it as far as vendors and whatnot. But there's a lot of different ways to do this. I believe what I do at work directly correlates straight to budgeting for town. Looking at budgets, like I said, it's facts over feelings. There's going to be some tough decisions that have to be made. And the biggest part of that is being completely 100% transparent. So if you're coming to and I mean this as far as when you live in Waxhaw, you shouldn't have to be on the website every day. You shouldn't have to be at every meeting, although we encourage that. Your Board of Commissioners should be working for you, and once we win your trust, I believe that's something that you wouldn't have to be looking at every day. But over the last 7-8 years that I've been here, it's like you've had to be so self-guarded to watch what was going on, because the minority board and Susan Wedra and Robert Don, these folks were fighting for you, but they were in the minority. So our whole reason for running and taking our business acumen to this is to put the majority board, the residents, where your voice will be heard, and we can represent you properly.
Yeah, I mean, I want to echo so much of the sentiment that's already been shared, but first, let me just say thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to get to volunteer for the past 5 years on the planning board. I've learned a lot in just beginning to understand planning and zoning. Really, it was quite a new knowledge set, jumping over from my past background in just logistics and trucking and transportation logistics. And on top of that, I will say honestly, working in a small family business, but working in a small family business has brought me a lot of different skill sets and a lot of different opportunities to ask different questions, whether it was ranging from communications and IT, or whether it was pre-planning and executing a project, or the follow-up with accounting and overall final reports to management. I feel like my small family business experience, along with my time on the planning and zoning board, would lend well, and that's why I wanted to volunteer again and see if y'all would vote for me, and not just myself, but Mike and John this upcoming November. I'm happy to volunteer one more time for y'all and just keep working on the residents' behalf.
And myself, I think that what my business experience can help Waxhaw with is my ability to listen first and foremost before I speak. I think that with as a sales and marketing professional, as a marketing person, you're supposed to listen to your customer and then market ideas back to the marketplace in order for you to garner that business from them, get them to take their money out of their wallet. Well, in this case, it's listening to the residents of Waxhaw, using that and their voice and being analytical with the data that we're given, and being able to thoughtfully process that information and explain it publicly, transparently in the meetings. So I think that's probably the best skill set that I can share with the town, is to listen first and foremost.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for the questions that have been coming in so far. Please keep the questions rolling in, and we will get to them one by one. Looks like we've got another one coming up here. John?
Yeah. Is it legal to deny a conditional rezoning request?
Yes, it is legal to deny a conditional rezoning request. 100%.
I think we can leave that there. Thank you, Susan, for the question.
Thank you.
What would you consider to be the biggest mistake the outgoing majority has done, and what would you do differently?
Well, if you don't mind me starting off.
Go ahead.
We just saw the Olivia project. I know we all can start with an agreement that we could have started there. But to expand on it, I'll go back into Yarborough. That was the first project I spoke out against. I did not understand when the general rezoning came in front of us why the applicant got, without seeing something site-specific, 3 different rezonings all at once. It was R4, it was R3, and still to come, and this is the part that we don't know yet at this time, there is a block of NC. If I recall correctly, it's slightly above 10 to 15 acres. It's been a little while, so forgive me. Yarborough should have never been the way it is today. I would love to go back and make sure that that project does not see the light of day.
I mean, for me, it would have been Emerson Park when we had our the Kimberly Horn, our consultant for the traffic impact analysis. Gentleman said we don't have a solution for the Providence and South Main intersection, but yet the outgoing board, they found it necessary to put 850 units in there, and they could have just said no to that project. I think in retrospect, looking back, the by right would have been probably a more attractive option.
By right would have required them to do a lot more road requirements, and it also would have required them to do a lot more tree and parkland dedication requirements, something that I know that did not happen, at least in looking at it to my satisfaction. There were plenty of parkland that could have been, should have been, in my personal opinion, and you'll never get it back ever again.
Yeah, I
on that
totally
Howie
agree.
farm. Because if you had the opportunity to say you could have eliminated some of the dwelling units, more than likely apartments, to, if it was by right, they would have had to supply up to 16 acres, 16-acre park over on that Howie farm area. You know, I would have rather seen that any day than more apartments, that which is likely what it's going to be this time.
Exactly.
For me is, you know, you can rely on your subject matter experts. So when you have a planning board and they vote that this is not the way to go, like Olivia, when they make a recommendation that this project does not fit this parcel of land, it does not work. That's really what you need to lie on. You need to lean on subject matter experts in the planning board before you move forward on something. We watched 2 different meetings, one that got deferred, and then it was a packed house at Waxhaw residents coming and making it known how they felt about it. And the common sense thing for me is like I said, if you've got a planning board, follow the lead. Sometimes you might want to look at it and you might want to do a deeper dive on it, but for the most part, the planning board's done their due diligence and they say this project doesn't work. We need to follow that lead, especially when we've watched our commercial to residential, or residential to commercial explode from 89 to 11 to 93 to 7 now. It would have been very easy on that vote for Olivia to be right that night for the town of Waxhaw. Everybody, they could have been right from the get-go and denied that rezone, and they did not. So we talked about it earlier. It's really about listening to the residents of Waxhaw. This is your town. You're vested. This is your tax dollars. We work for you. So what they didn't do is, and what we would have done, we would have listened to you. And there would have been a different outcome. I promise you that.
All right. I get another question from Susan again. What is your opinion about 2x2 meetings that were commonly used to conduct city business by the 3 holdover commissioners?
I'll start off with that one if you don't mind, John.
Go right ahead.
Having open and honest conversation, no problem. But having open, honest, and transparent conversation as required when you are an elected official, 100%. 2x2 meetings, I rather have work sessions. I look forward to working with these gentlemen here. I look forward to joining Sue, Richard, and Mayor Murray in a work session, actually having honest conversations, civil dialogue to actually come up with reasonable solutions. That's my answer.
I'll go ahead and say open-minded work sessions where you meet for the first time, you have fresh ideas versus coming in with something that you might have done on your own and you bring it in there and you're closed-minded about it. In corporate America, we like to throw it open. Let's put it on the table. Doesn't matter where a good idea comes from, but let's not close an idea. So I would rather have open work sessions moving forward.
No, I have to expand on that. I agree. Yeah, you guys covered it. Thank you.
Thank you for another awesome question. Hey, if you just to pause real fast before we dive into another question. I see some likes, but if you guys also wouldn't mind jumping around, liking, adding a comment, also helps. Sharing also helps. So a few of those people that have got reactions, thank you. For everybody that's on here, if you don't mind jumping on, throwing on another reaction, greatly appreciate it.
We've got some more questions. So, one from Aaron. How would you manage developers putting pressure on you to usurp their initial agreements in order to move their project forward?
Well, Aaron, thank you for your question. I'm going to fill in the blank a little bit here. So I think what we've had with Blythe Mill as an example project where they've got certificates of occupancy before they actually completed the road and improvement requirements.
That's a good example. Yeah.
And if you're speaking on something like that, where it's like the Rehoboth signal light or road improvements that Blythe Mill would have required, I lean towards public safety, and I'd rather see the improvements done first over certificates of occupancy.
Yeah. And we all sat stunned in that board of commissioners meeting in the audience when an offer was given the
30
developer for the changeovers to be given before the road improvement was completed. And yeah, that was stunning, and that's not how that should have went down. So yeah, you stated it really well, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, I
That's a
understand.
good example.
I understand they made a rationale of we don't want road congestion and road traffic twice for construction, but at the same time balancing it out of what the citizens want, and the citizens clearly want the road improvements to come ahead of the building. So maybe we need to start implementing that. That's something that I know I've heard.
And from a Waxhaw town perspective, people want to come here. Developers want to come here. We have the leverage because people want to come here. This isn't a Rust Belt city where you're begging developers to come in and develop. Everybody wants to come to Waxhaw. So I think it was said best at one of the meetings where Susan Wedger said, why are we taking crumbs from folks? We have the upper hand. We can screen developers. We can screen the projects. What makes the most sense for the town of Waxhaw, what makes the most sense for the residents. We have the upper hand. We have the leverage. So we can screen the folks to make the most sense for us.
Yeah, along that note, I think the next question kind of covers a little bit of that, or it dovetails into what you're saying. What would you, this is from Joel, what would you do to balance out our commercial to residential ratio? How and where would you put more commercial?
Well, I know that there's a current study going on for our downtown master plan to identify within the heart of our commercial district that's existing properties that may be able to be converted from blank lots into commercial opportunity. Worth taking a look at, worth having a conversation over. I know for me, there are existing call-outs that are already zoned for commercial. So I know for a zoning perspective, I don't think we need to change the zoning and add two more zoning. We just need to encourage what's currently zoned to be revitalized or invigorated, to transform from blank lots into active commercial space.
Yeah, agreed. Because I think a couple examples where the initial zoning was, or the initial plan from the 2040 comprehensive plan was done correctly in these commercial corridors that are going to be lucrative for the small business, medium business owners, and the city. They were rezoned into an apartment complex next to the hospital up on Providence Road, and that was commercial corridor space, especially when the widening of Providence Road happens. That would be great commercial space, but now you don't have that. That's zoned now for, or it's a project that's been approved since it was rezoned for those 55 and older community apartments, 190 units. And then the other area would be with the Olivia project. You know, that's prime commercial corridor space. And now the first project that the outgoing commissioners wanted to put there,
Unlocking
unlocking
the developer
is
says.
300. It was 315 apartment units. Now it's 305 or something like that, because it originally, of course, everybody's well versed in this by now. It was not meeting the minimum requirements for conditional rezoning on town center zoning, and then also the parking. It didn't meet the minimum requirements for parking. So on the planning board, Daniel and I we voted with the rest of the planning board. I think that was a unanimous vote.
I will
Oh,
say,
you were not there.
I was not there.
Yeah, that's so.
Deepa was chair. She did a great job
Oh, yeah.
last evening.
And we voted.
But without me there, my fellow members that were there saw that even the nay vote, to my understanding, after conversation, the nay vote was like, well, I only said nay because I didn't quite
That's what thank you for-
understand.
yeah.
And I was like, well, why not then vote? Because you can vote nay or vote, hey, I'm here, but you voted to confirm for the developer. I didn't understand why he would do that outside of his, again, was he coached into that? I don't know.
Well, that was a very interesting planning board meeting.
That was very-
They're not interesting all the time, but that's one to go back and watch. What was that in June?
That was a June planning
yeah.
board meeting.
So those examples are examples of where we can put commercial and where we shouldn't rezone.
Yep.
And keep those zonings. So because where Olivia is, that's a economic center. That's along that proposed Waxhaw Parkway, and that would be a great area for small, medium-sized businesses.
So for an example of a commercial corridor, for anybody that doesn't quite understand, in our 2040 comprehensive plan, there were little bubbles identifying key commercial corners or corridors. An example of one would be the Hacienda El Rey across from Alma Village. That would be a commercial corner, kind of near, offering small restaurants, coffee shops, near walkable, but essentially that there were already key zones identified in our maps that are already existing. So the zoning is taken care of. It's just really going back into encouraging those bright partners, as Mike said, to come to Waxhaw in those categories, not just residential rooftops.
Well said. We're the referendum to make that happen, so.
Yep. Thank you guys for so many great questions. John, we got another one? Well, John's pulling it up in the meantime. Appreciate it. A few of you guys here jumping on. See the likes that everybody's been getting. See the shares popping up. If you guys wouldn't mind sharing this with a few more of your friends, would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
So Aaron has another question. But so will you hold the developer accountable and not a letter of intent? I'm trying to figure out. Aaron, you got a little bit of clarification on that?
Aaron, we'll jump back to that question if you don't mind shooting us another message. Thank you. You got another one coming in, John?
Yeah. So Ronald is asking,
Is this
what?
Ronald Johnson?
No.
Okay.
What do we do now, moving forward, to correct the manic outpacing of residential development against the severely depressed and strained infrastructure, along with the overcrowding of our schools? That's a good question, Ronald. I think that's on a lot of people's mind.
Hit the nail on the head on that one.
You want to take it?
I'll be happy to
I'll go
take
right
it.
after you. 'Cause
I
Go
know
ahead.
for me, one of the things that I know we can do, and this is one of the things that I know I was fighting to do, was to get and open up communication on the school side, because I had a lot of concerns. I have littles in our school system that are currently being impacted with everything that's going on at Union County Public Schools. I have similar worries to every mom and dad out there that have a kid in Cuthbertson or over in Kensington or at Waxhaw Elementary. It doesn't matter. But for me, to be able to just be able to communicate and actually receive information was something that we were fighting with from a planning board perspective. To be able to use that data to help guide should a project move forward or not move forward. We were exclusively told based off of state statute, chapter 160D, that because we were not a governing authority, we couldn't. I said I think that we should, and it's within the public interest to keep asking if we can. That's what I think we want to do. I know that I would love to keep that conversation going. and keep fighting on that perspective for you all.
Yeah, and I know you can't use the word moratorium, so what your question is asking, what can we do immediately? My wish list right now is to get the Board of Commissioners to put a referendum on that high-dense residential building. We need to get in there and be able to keep things that are zoned commercial, keep them zoned that way, make sure there's no conditional rezoning that doesn't make sense. And as far as I talked to the county, and they were talking about what was going on in Waxhaw. They questioned what was going on by the incumbents that are leaving, the seated commissioners that are not running for re-election. They questioned them. Why would they do this? Because now our hands are tied to try to keep up with building schools. And they were continually building these high-dense residential projects, which were going to put more kids in these schools when they were overcrowded. So for me, again, as a referendum is to get us on this board so we can have the majority and stick to the zoning as it is now. And really, it's a moratorium, but I'm going to say it because my vote's going to be, it's a referendum. We cannot continue to build high-density properties. We need to move forward and attack that imbalance.
John?
Well, so when it comes to the schools and infrastructure, I think Richard and Susanna and Robert have been working really well with our not local, but our district legislators in this area, Todd Johnson, David Willis, to help with the school situation, and definitely getting roads approved, working with them through CRTPO and those regional. What are they, regional?
Well, regional partners.
Partnerships, yeah. And then you also have, being able to work with the county commissioners about, taking on the school situation. What's the other thing I was going to say about that? Oh, then, of course, there's the lobbyists that can help with stuff like that as well, to get grants, to get state money, to be able to aid with those projects.
Yeah, and I want to jump on what you just said, John, which makes a lot of sense. And what we've heard, when you have to get your house in order, Board of Commissioners get our house in order, we have to be able to work with local municipalities. There's power in numbers. We have to be able to work with local municipalities. We have to work with the county as far as to be a united front so we can attack what our transportation concerns are. And we had, at our farmers market, we had folks that came down from NCDOT. They were just there on a family visit. We had got to spend 20, 30 minutes talking with them. And that was a direct comment. You guys get your house in order. Then when you guys team up with your local municipalities, when you get the county involved and there's power in numbers, now you have a voice when you want to talk to NCDOT. There's more leverage that way.
Thank you again for the awesome question. I hope that answered to your satisfaction on those great points about schools and infrastructure and how we could be more mindful in considering those before any more redevelopment comes in. And I agree 100% that has been sorely missed.
A little bit more clarification on what Aaron was asking about before.
So we're jumping back to Aaron's quote. Thank you, Aaron.
Scott Stone guaranteed a letter of intent to move forward on the traffic mitigation with Blythe Mill. Will we see more of the same going forward? And I think
Blythe Mill. Oh, so I think that traffic mitigation was twofold, and unfortunately, because there was the majority led by Brenda at the time to get that developer certificates of occupancy, that agreement, I believe, is struck to the best of my knowledge. But I believe that also is a little bit above our pay grade at this time. Look forward to getting some more clarification for you on that, Aaron. And be happy to help.
But we did cover, I think, the way that went inside that meeting. That was not the way that it should have gone.
Yeah, I didn't understand it.
Susanna, she brought up, Commissioner Ledger brought up a really good points in opposition of allowing the 30 COs to be granted before that traffic mitigation was was done, and I think that really says it all. And like you said, from a safety standpoint, those things have to be done first.
Yep. Thank you again for the awesome question.
Filtering through, there's a lively discussion on here, but I want to get some questions.
Thank you guys in the chat for having a lively discussion. Appreciate everybody.
Since outgoing commissioners approved about 4,000 residential units, traffic will become worse. What can be done to help?
Well, it's a little over 4,000 now after the outgoing commissioners also approved Olivia. So we're close, keeping up, getting closer to 4,500, I believe, is the last count. We definitely have essentially indigestion for residential rooftops. I know for me, the way I look at it is
That's a pretty good way of putting it.
I don't know how else to put it. That is a lot of residential rooftops. And when you, Mike has already said, when you look at our tax ratio and our tax base, and that we have 4,500 more residential rooftops and essentially a pittance of upcoming more commercial development, we're going to be leveraged, over leveraged. No, there's no way to put it. The burden is going to be on the residents to pay for all those services, and we need to focus on commercial in any capacity, in my personal opinion.
And I think that's what we've been not lobbying for, but we all agree on that. Otherwise, we have to measure cost to serve, and we also understand that we live here as well. We're residents, and that tax burden will fall on the residents if we can't get this turned around.
4,000. Yeah. I was just thinking about 4,000 rooftops. Like you said, it's more than that. You do the multiplication of how many people to each unit, and you're talking about absorbing, assimilating, welcoming in over 12,000 plus people into this town in the next 5 to 7 years. I don't know. That's back of the envelope stuff, but that's not unreasonable math.
I think
it's unreasonable ask for the town of Waxhaw to absorb that much growth in that short period of time. But that math, I think, with the rooftops, that's how many people you get. So how many cars is that? That's a lot. That's a lot of cars, and the roads in the condition that they're in, they're just not. It's not going to be tenable for a quality of life that most of us are moved to Waxhaw and that we are accustomed to, that we expect. So what you'll have to do is there will be some road improvements that will have to be done. There's a bunch of, Waxhaw Parkway gets talked about on the Waxhaw Parkway East. We have a Waxhaw Parkway West that goes by the north side of the post office down that Waxhaw Parkway West. And there's improvements approved already for that. So that's going to help. But when you talk about Waxhaw Parkway East going by the Waxhaw Farmers Market, and that's where that Olivia project is approved for now, that's something that we'd probably want to connect to Waxhaw Indian Trail Road, but there's other opportunities. There's other routes, alternative routes that are also a possibility. So all those are being looked at, and without getting into too many specifics and scaring a whole lot of people, we just have to say that there's a bunch of possibilities, but they all have to be individually vetted out. Yeah.
Look, folks, I'm not gonna oversimplify this, or I'm not going to overexpand on this. I'm going to keep it simple. We could do Helms Road extension and that flyover piece to help with our key artery problems that are already existing. That's already in the pipeline. That's about 3 years out, and we can help essentially keep that on our transportation infrastructure plan. And if there's anything that can be done to elevate that, it's worth asking and evaluating if anything can be done there. But with that also, there's already some key pieces in play that would greatly help us day to day. Bonds Grove Church and NC-16, out there by the fence folks that do the commercial business, that is already tagged in, supposed to be a signal light. If there's anything that can be done to help improve that intersection, we've already been talking, and there's already a work in progress and a portion paid for the roundabout at Bonds Grove Church and Waxhaw Marvin Road, where that Y intersection is. And I think, in my personal opinion, and I know there are some folks that don't like roundabouts, but that odd intersection would best be served by a roundabout, in my personal opinion. There are key little sections that we can improve before NC-16 widens, and I don't mean to scare you folks. When it widens, NC-16 is going to be rough. And so can we find and make those road safety improvements before the widening at 16, while everybody's going to be looking to use Waxhaw Marvin, or go out 75, or go out Jim Howie and past Millbridge? Everybody's going to be impacted. Can we help do little improvements before essentially we have 2030 pain while the widening starts, I believe, maybe 2032, who knows?
Yeah, well said.
There's a statement from Ronald, and I think it kind of goes along with what I was saying. So I think he's kind of agreeing and just expanding on what we said, and I think he said this for the benefit of everybody on the live chat here. Ronald says, we need to realize that if and when they ever expand Providence from Ray Road to Waxhaw Parkway, what I assume is a 7 to 10 year project, that in and of itself will cause massive traffic delays just with the population we currently have now. And by the time it's done with the approved residential districts, our population will be up another 50%. I think that's fair to say. I think that math is solid.
Yeah.
At least, like I said, back of the envelope math, it's kind of hard to argue with that, Ronald, and that's well stated.
Yeah, 100%. I'm in agreement with you. Thank you so much. That's a great comment. Thank you, Ronald.
I'm going down the list here. Can you be clear that you do not plan to disband the Waxhaw Police Department, as some wackos have insinuated? Well, without getting into the mental state of some of the people that may have suggested that, which I think we've seen that online, I can safely say that we are not. At least, I'm going to speak for these guys too, because we talked about it. We are not going to disband the Waxhaw Police Department.
No, we are not disbanding the Waxhaw Police Department. I find that laughable to even think about that. The Waxhaw Police Department, in my personal opinion, and this is from someone when moving to Waxhaw, saw that we had our own police department. It is a valuable asset that we cannot actually put a number on. The services that our police department do in keeping us safe from essentially that crazy sprawl not too far up from us, it comes through Waxhaw. They want to cut through Waxhaw, but they don't anymore, because our Waxhaw Police Department, I think, my personal opinion, has been on top of it as of lately. And so thank you. I have no plans to change it.
It's always been a top-notch police department.
We rated with Waxhaw the five safest city, town/city in North Carolina. We have to make it attractive, so we draw the best, and we keep the police here so they don't take other positions outside. So we have to make sure that we're taking care of them so they want to stay here as well.
Shoot, I heard back in the day Waxhaw was number 3, so, goals.
Well, the original statement online, whoever made it, it is an absurd suggestion, accusation, and there's no plans that would be something I'd be totally against. We love our Waxhaw police, and they are some of the most professional law enforcement officers in the region.
I hope that puts that one to bed. That one was crazy.
But Aaron, thank you for the question.
Waxhaw's finest. We appreciate you.
Let's see here.
Guys, thank you again. I see so many comments, but hey, those viewers, can we get those viewers to put a thumbs up on this for me? Would greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We didn't completely cover this, but is views at Olivia set in stone, or something can be done to stop it? Will the developer be held accountable to build what was promised on the original plan? If they don't, would that be enough to cause halt of the development or stop the project altogether?
Oof, that is a tough question. It's a good question. Look, they essentially, it's contractual to my knowledge, essentially because it was conditional, and those three agreed. So technically, the town attorney had, per the vote, the voting majority said yes, led by Brenda, ushered right behind her by Tracy, lockstep and heel, followed by Jason. They said yes to that wholeheartedly, and they wanted it at any cost. I couldn't believe it. They didn't even consider minor updates that I thought could have helped, like keeping off-street parking out of the equation. Because that site, to expand on it real fast, the developer was like, it's only 11% off your town required ordinance.
For parking.
But 4% was hidden on the street, so really it was 15% that Brenda, Tracy, and Jason essentially said, oh, no problem. Go ahead. We know on-street parking has already failed on Kensington, but they went and did it again.
Not to mention that the town hall was filled with people that did not want to see that project happen, and they just looked right past all of the Waxhaw residents that were there at town hall and made the motion to approve that project, which was appalling but not surprising.
Yeah. Appalling but not surprising. It is an understatement.
All right.
Thank you guys for the questions.
Yeah, great question.
Hey, see that everybody's throwing likes on that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Susan's got another question. What are your thoughts about reviewing the town's budget and considering cost reductions like Commissioners Wedra and Daunt have done?
Well, first, I'd like to start by saying what leadership that those guys presented on that board that day, sitting there in that audience for 4 hours while the three voting majority essentially held the town at hostage, for lack of better words, and I'm trying to put it nicely because I still get a little heated thinking over that nonsense.
No, it's
that's
frustrating.
fair.
I'm saying.
That's a fair assessment.
Let's just start with, I look forward to representing something different on that level. Outside of that, I'm happy to take a look and be fiscally conservative and evaluate to the best of our ability where there could be mindfulness. At the same time, I also know that we have a heavy burden coming up in front of us with a lot of traffic and road improvements that are already in the pipeline. I know we've promised to support those at the same time, so fulfilling both will be a heavy task, but I look forward to essentially working with these guys and figuring it out.
Well, because of that, I think you have to look at every line item of the budget and uncover savings the best you can. The town hall, having that new mortgage payment on the books now that it's complete, that is a big change in the budget from years past. So that also has to be overcome.
Look, and with the town hall, I'm going to skip the main building with the office staff, but I want to focus on the public service and that team over there. They were working in a almost 50-plus-year-old building that was not serving essentially the needs and scope of today. So the public works and public service sides that on what they got at the town hall, I understood that building was probably antiquated and overdue for the new tools that they have today, especially with what we're asking for that department to do, with the amount of work, whether it's grinding sidewalks or we just got that essentially some new equipment for them to stay up on our road infrastructure with some asphalt crack sealing machinery. We love Waxhaw for the trees, but yet every time of the year they got to service that leaf vac equipment. So giving them the right tools to execute those jobs that they do and that serve the folks on a daily basis, I have no problem in essentially making sure that those teams have the right tools necessary. But at the same time, where we can be mindful, it's time to be mindful.
And when you address budgets, all it is, it's time invested. It's just time. So we can look at the budget from a helicopter view, but to be able to dig in, it just takes time. That's what we do. That's what I've been doing for 25 plus years at an executive level. It's my wheelhouse. I enjoy doing it because there are things that you can find. If you dig in, you'll find where there could be potential waste, or where you don't have to cut a program, but there's better ways to pay for it. So it just means time invested, and we're willing to do that.
100%. Thank you guys for the question.
Yep.
Who'd that one come from?
That was from
That's
Susan.
Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Susan.
From Morgan. We've been lied to before. How can you assure us you will always listen to us? Well, I think we started this by talking about the recall mechanism.
Yeah.
And so that is one way to assure. I think, it's putting our money where our mouths are. Is that?
Yeah.
I think that's how the
We're all
phrase
used to it.
goes. So other than that, we do listen. I think we all are vested in this community. Plan on staying here for the foreseeable future. And I've got a lot of neighbors. I'm in Millbridge. I got a lot of neighbors that probably would, if I wasn't listening to them, I would hear about it. Not to mention, I would expect to be taken aside and talked to if I don't hold my word.
Right, your local government, you're making decisions for your family and your neighbors, the people you go to church with, and the folks that your kids go to school with. So it's very clear that we're going to make the best decisions for the folks that we see every day. This is totally different from a state or a federal level. And we're going to be rubbing elbows with people that we're going to be making decisions for. So we're 100% invested. Like I said, not just from that we're going to give you our word and it's going to our bond is our word and our word is our bond, is that, but we're going to be here with you. We are your residents. We're going to be elbows lockstep with you.
I mean, for me, the way I look at it, and one, thank you for your question. And I understand how frustrating it would have been, and it is still today, because our town charter does not have a recall, essentially, ability. But I think that, again, I have no problem, and I think it should, and we would be happy to essentially work with our town attorney and work with our state reps to get that taken care of. For me, though, the way I look at it is I've already been, and I'm happy to continue to serve you guys. I've already been in service, so I have some proof in the pudding. I'm on record for some time now on what I've seen as good and what I've seen as bad, and I'd be happy to stand on that all day long.
Morgan, one other thing is, because we've talked about this, it's just, again, being 100% transparent up front. There should be no gotchas. Residents should never be blindsided. And that's something that we've all agreed upon, is to be 100% transparent, which you've gotten from Commissioners Wedger and Daunt already. We're here to follow suit, bring that majority, so there's no more folks feeling like they've gotten bamboozled or lied to.
Thank you for the question, Morgan.
Yep. And Dimitri asked, are you aligned with Waxhaw Wall 1.0 on all fronts, or can you name something that you disagree with?
Well, I don't know if it's a disagreement, but I'll tell you one project, because I was for a project and today I still am. I think the parts of what we are getting at Helms Road extension, the widening, the roundabout, the flyover, and how we did get essentially what I think will be a good mixed project, but it's cottages and it was low density and it had a big commercial frontage. I didn't mind that project. I thought that the public safety advantages layered in with the road improvements, layered in with it met essentially a lower density and had a good commercial piece to it, that I felt it was balanced. I'll stand on that.
It's a good example. I think I don't know if it's on any of the big stuff. Things, topics change, not the agenda, but as projects come up, things are fluid, and I think listening and talking things through is where it is, instead of throwing up disagreements and being combative. God bless Suzanne and Richard and Robert. They went through a real difficult situation with this past board, and the current board, I should say. And they had all those discussions in the open in the Board of Commissioners meetings. And if you wanted to know what was on their mind, you knew what was on their mind because it got discussed in the open. That, I think, is how government should run, especially when all the folks in town, a lot of folks in town showed up to those meetings about Olivia. That's how a Waxhaw government should run as well. We're there to listen, and when it comes to disagreeing with each other, there's stuff. You watch the planning board meetings with Daniel and I in the past. We don't disagree on a whole lot, but there's sometimes that we voted differently, and it might not be on the big stuff, but we all have our own minds. But he's enlightened me on some stuff. I think I've changed his mind on a couple things, and those discussions were in the meetings, on tape.
Not only on tape, but with sometimes just hey, it's a lively discussion. We're having frank and honest discussion.
No, we're adults. We don't have to get upset about that stuff.
Yeah, but we're doing it for the benefit, essentially, to the best of our ability, of our neighbors.
Right.
That's the way I know we've looked at it. That's, again, it goes back to, I really looking forward to working with Sue, Richard, and Mayor Murray and getting y'all's vote this November 4th and joining them, because that's not to go too far in the past and go into the weeds, as Tracy has already said I like to do. But one of the things after the Wall 1.01, regardless, they offered me an opportunity to have an honest conversation. We sat down, we had a lunch, we were neighbors. That was it. The funniest part is Tracy thought she could manipulate and send me photos of myself having an honest business style lunch with neighbors. I laughed. I was like, what is going on? We are not essentially CIA operatives up in Washington, D.C. Who's taking private eye style photos of me having an honest lunch? And two, I'm a planning board member tasked with representing and giving the advice to all members of the board, regardless of who they are. So isn't that my job to essentially say, hey, my name's Dan Farris. I'm glad you guys won. Let me introduce myself, and let's just see if I can also help make you guys better at your job as Board of Commissioners to the best of my ability. But yeah, somehow I go in the weeds, and Tracy Wesley can send me private style photos over that.
That was a pathetic attempt to intimidate you.
You're a celebrity, Dan. You're famous now.
That was a good photograph of you.
I know. It was my bad side, though, unfortunately.
It was still good. So I think we're wrapping things up here. We're at 7 o'clock, and we appreciate everybody sticking with us who's stayed in here this long. And I think there was one. Oh, Joel says recalls are a great idea. So thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Joel.
And I think that just about covers it.
Awesome. Well, if anybody has any last minute questions, now's the great time to get them in. And then with that said, I'd like to go ahead and just start by saying I greatly appreciate everybody that's been supporting us throughout this campaign. Starting with the Wall 1.0, they've been great folks to get to know, to have honest conversation with. It's been awesome getting to work with and getting to know Mike. I've had a pleasure of working with John these past few years on the planning board. I gotta say, John is no longer going to be on the planning board, and it's going to be missed, him on the planning board, working with him as a colleague. And it's been such a pleasure. So with that said, I just would like to say, John, I know you're not going to be on the planning board here because we're running this campaign and you're going to be off this. And with that said, I'm asking for everybody to go out there one more time, talk to your neighbors, talk to 2 more folks, help get us out this November, because John will not be on the planning board, and I am running to be on the board of commissioners with John, so we can keep fighting for you all. But if we don't turn out this vote this November, we're going to have John off the planning board. We're going to have chaos, and the Waxhaw water tower will keep sowing its craziness across Waxhaw, and I'm tired of seeing it, folks. So let's put that to bed. Let's kick her the hell out of here, and let's make a referendum this November.
Dan, it was well said. Stole the thunder, but folks, we're doing this for the love of town. You don't do this to get rich. You don't do this to get wealthy. You do it because you love your community and you want to give back. I've coached at Conference in high school, coached football there for 5 years. I'm involved with the community. I love it here. This is my last stop. I've lived in 8 states. We know what wonderful is. Instead of just saying, hey, folks are moving here and it's getting busy, we were wanting to stay here and fight instead of just being a voice on the sidelines, be a part of the fix. And we love it here. So the referendum is the Waxhaw Wall 2.0. We are here to bring constructive criticism and a teamwork atmosphere back to the Board of Commissioners, which has been sorely missed. And I'm going to say it. People are going to get mad. I'm going to say it anyway. Commissioner Wedrick, Commissioner Daunt, and Mayor Murray, they come and they do their due diligence and they come to work. They come to work for the residents of Waxhaw. That has not been done with the 3 that are leaving. So I thank you for your service, but it's time to get stepping and bring 3 folks in that want to work for the town of Waxhaw. So thank you very much. Appreciate your vote. Get us in. We will work for you. We will not be disappointed. Thank you.
Yeah, and not to prolong the wrap up here, but I echo that sentiment about getting out to vote. We really appreciate all the support that we've been given so far. A lot of positive conversations out there on the campaign, and we've made ourselves available to everybody. We want to be that voice of the residents that put them in the majority on the board. Can't state that enough. And just like Mike said, we're working for you, and there's not much more I can say about that. Mm-hmm. About Mayor Murray, Commissioner Wedra, and Commissioner Daunt, obviously they're supporters of ours, and they've done in this past 2 years. I think they've earned your trust. We've been fortunate enough to have them support us. With that support, I'm hoping that is enough for our neighbors to get out and vote for us. These elections are notoriously low turnout, not by our choice. We'd love to have everybody come out and vote, and we want the residents' voices to be heard through that vote. So, and another thing about just to clear up a couple things that I think may have been talked about tonight on the chat. Let's not forget about all the stuff that, and actually, I'm not sure if people are aware of how much Commissioner Daunt, Commissioner Wedra, and Robert have stopped, how many shenanigans and how many ridiculous horse trading ideas and schemes that they've had to put a stop to behind the scenes. And one thing that they've corrected, they've hired the lobbyists back, which I'm hoping people are aware of, that the other commissioners, the outgoing commissioners, they voted to get rid of the lobbyists, and they're bringing Richard and Susanna voted to bring the lobbyists back. So just want to make sure that was clear. But with that said, I'm eternally grateful, and I'll be for all the support, and would be my honor to serve the residents of Waxhaw. Was fortunate enough to do that on the planning board for 4 years. It was a great learning experience and met a lot of great people. Just looking forward to parlaying that into helping Waxhaw more the best way I can.
Yeah.
Well said.
Mike?
You guys, I already said what I had to say. I'm going to piggyback on what you guys said, but just being able to bring back a team atmosphere back to the Board of Commissioners, and we can win the residents' trust is everything for me, because you haven't had that, and we're going to bring that back.
Any last minute questions before we wrap it up here, John?
No. I think it's been covered.
Awesome.
Yep.
Folks, thank you so much for joining us this evening for Waxhaw 2.0
And we'll
live.
see you at early voting or at the polls on November 4th.
We'll be out there in force. Thank you, folks. Appreciate you.
Yep, get out there this November. Grab your neighbors, talk to your friends. Looking forward to seeing you out there for voting on November 4th. Thank you all for joining us for this Waxhaw Live. Greatly appreciate it. Hope you all have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.